Welcome back to another episode of the Pickle Pulse. I am your host, Brian Green, and today we have David Groechel of 11six24 Pickleball. What's up, David? How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh, dude, living the dream. Living the dream.
Yeah.
So I was really excited to have you on because most people that love the game, like you and I do, absolutely have a fantasy of starting a paddle company, of starting grip, having some sort of way to be relevant in the pickleball landscape. And last year you dropped your paddle, which we'll talk about the name of your company and the names and all those things. I know there's some funny stories there. But it really caught a hold of the whole pickleball industry and everyone was talking well about it. You know, how was that experience? And then where did you get the idea for the company and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so the experience has been like a total whirlwind, right? Coming from, launching a catalog paddle into my own shapes and it kind of blowing up. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been crazy, hectic, but I can't complain. It's been pretty awesome. So how I got started is, I got into pickleball. I played on a family vacation a couple of times.
Okay. Where'd you travel to?
Hilton Head.
Yeah,
so
of course. There you go.
Always in Hilton Head. You'll catch me down there like 4 or 5 times a year.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, we just had moved to DC and looking to make some friends and do exercise. I hate lifting weights. I hate running, things like that. So I pickleball. So I started playing and then I got serious and I, upgraded from my Amazon paddle to a really expensive $225 paddle. And I broke 2 of them within 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, there's got to be a better way. And I've always run side businesses and they've been on the computer and I was looking to get off the computer, right? Yeah. Working during the day on your work computer, shutting it, open your personal computer, work on your projects is not any fun. So I was like, I'm going to try this pickleball thing.
Okay.
Because I'm playing, 3, 4, 5 times a week at that time.
So not to cut you off, but what time frame was that? Was that 2 or 3 years ago? Was that around the time when the first thermoform paddles came out and everything was breaking loose and falling apart, or was it a different experience?
Yeah, it was about that time. So it was January of 2023, so about a year and a half ago.
Sweet. You play well for only playing that amount of time.
Yeah, I do all right. I might be 3.5 at best, but not really. So got into it around that time and then started getting samples sent to me last March. Mm-hmm. Picked out, 1 or 2 based on how they were playing and holding up, not having the core corruption issue that a lot of them had at that time. And then I launched at a lower price point, last June, I think it was, mm-hmm. With the catalog paddle. And it did pretty well and got me going.
Okay.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then through that paddle, it allowed you to get your own shape and create the Huarache, the first version of it that Chris Olsen went to Hawaii with, won a tournament, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody's like, what is this paddle? Because I was the same way. I had never heard of you guys.
Yeah, because I didn't do any marketing because it was just like a side gig at that point, and mm-hmm. it was selling enough paddles to like provide a little extra income and give myself a hobby. But then in August, I designed my own shape, taught myself CAD, and then we launched it, or did a soft launch. I did, and it did all right. It was doing pretty well, and then as you said, Chris picked it up, and it just kind of blew up out of nowhere, and everyone's like, "Who is this? What is this company? The name is terrible." And yes, it is terrible, but I like it.
The funny thing is, I don't really feel like it's so bad. Like 11six24, it just, to me, I thought like I'm playing pickleball all the time and kicking ass. But like, what is the story behind the numbers? Yeah,
so back a few years ago at my old company, they did a jelly bean guessing contest, and if you guess the correct number of jelly beans in the jar, you won a prize. So there's a story behind it that I won't get into, but I guessed the exact number of jelly beans in the jar. I did not cheat, but I guessed the exact number, and it was 11,624, and I won the contest.
Wow. So, and then that leads to a pickleball company. Like, no correlation, but awesomeness.
No, I was just sitting there. I'm like, man, that's my lucky number, and mm-hmm. I didn't put any thought into it, as can be seen. But and that's how the name came about.
Wow. So when you were guessing the jelly beans, did you try to use like a mass or volume, or like, or was this like a total 11six24 guess?
So it was kind of like a Rain Man thing. So I'll tell the story now. It's been long enough.
Okay.
So basically, I saw the boxes they had bought of the jelly beans. So I called Jelly Belly and I said, hey, how many are in these boxes? I'm running a contest. So they told me there's 4 boxes. Like, there's about 3,000 each box. And then this box was left in a conference room that had glass windows that everyone was in and eating the extra jelly beans out of.
Okay.
I found a bunch of numbers written on the box, and I added them up and subtracted from the 12,000, and it was 11,624. So anyone could have guessed this or figured it out. I just happened to do it.
Wow.
And the company said it was a game of skill, not luck. And that's how I won.
Wow. Dude, you're like secret agent man over there doing all the detective work. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your first paddle and why you think everyone has really loved it. I actually, forgive me, I didn't get a chance to play with it a lot at the time, and I hit around with it for a second. But I looked on YouTube today just for shits and giggles to try to find a bad review on the paddle. There isn't one. Everyone loves it, and I mean, like, glowing reviews. So, you know, what do you think it was that caused that?
Yeah, I think there was a gap in the market, right? When I was playing, I come from tennis. I played tennis from when I was 6, size 15, and then I kind of burnt out a little bit and stopped. But nothing quite felt like a tennis racket, where it had the little bit longer handle for two-handed backhands, a lean, slightly head heavy, and had like the curved top shape. Everything either had like 5.3 or 5.5 inch handles. Maybe it was on the hybrid side and shorter. It wasn't weighted towards, head heavy. So that's kind of how the shape came about, and I designed it because there was that gap in the market. And then I tested a bunch of different surfaces, threw that fiberglass layer in there because looking for a little extra pop. Because raised paddles become more powerful, and that's a whole nother issue today. We could go way down a rabbit hole.
We're going to get to that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So that's why I added the fiberglass layer, because the carbon fiber was a little soft and just wanted that little extra oomph and the crisp feeling. And there was nothing quite like it. And I think that's why I ended up doing really well. And it fits in a really specific niche of people who wanted that longer handle, tennis racket feeling, elongated shape with a decent twist weight and a lower swing weight for elongated paddle. And it just kind of hit that sweet spot.
No, I would agree. And it seems like I played with it, 2 or 3 weeks ago when I met you. And that was my initial take of it, is like, what a really good all-around paddle. It was very easy for me to pick up and just transition over from the Thrive Azul that I was playing with. And I was like, okay, I like this a lot. Now we've gotten to these Gen 3 paddles, so let's go ahead and dig into that. In that it seems like all the rules of pickleball have been thrown out the door, in that let's see how hot we can get the paddles. We can trampoline the things with Eulas. We can put the foam cores in there. And now we're at a place where you have to wear eyewear or you can lose an eye. And, to me, it's just very interesting when you were banning paddles less than 18 months ago because you said they're too hot, and now there's legal paddles on the market that are twice as hot as those that were out there. Tell me a little bit about kind of your take on these Gen 3s, and I think you have some in the work as well, right?
Yeah, and I keep going back and forth if I'm going to make it, just because first and foremost, I'm a player too, right? And I think that's another reason the paddles work so well, is I'm not someone who just pick something and throwing ads up and selling them. Like, I play test these, I go through iterations, and I play 5-6 days a week, sometimes twice a day. So I also wear eye protection now. I won't play without it. But I think the Gen 3s are too powerful, and it's not at the pro level. I think that's a whole different realm, and they should have their own rules and do their own thing, but it's more at the lower levels, right? Let's say you have Susie who comes in to play for the first time, plays against some, bangers who are 3-0s with the new paddles that are super hot. They get discouraged and they don't want to come back, right? Pickleball should be fun. It should be social. That's why we all get into it, or a lot of us do. It's for the fun and meeting people and getting exercise and getting out, that aspect. But if you're just getting balls and body bagged all the time hit at you, you're not going to come back. So that's the biggest thing for me, is the growth of the sport. And I think the power, and it's going to turn into tennis, right? Or points last a lot less long, are a lot shorter. So you have a serve, a return, you bang it back at someone at the net, they pop it up, and
it's done.
Point over, 4 hits. So that's what worries me the most. And it is a safety issue too.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the bigger things, and that's not talked about enough.
Yeah, no, it is. I heard a stat today when I was listening to another podcast about 90% of people that play pickleball just do it for fun, for chits and giggles, and they don't treat it like I do, where I'm pretty serious and I want to get better and I want to win, and I'm very, very competitive. And I think you're right. If you're appealing to the masses, the people that want to go out and have a good time, I've heard many times that, like, adding spin to the ball, being able to get the grit levels a little higher, I think might even be more valuable than getting a more powerful paddle.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I have, we met with USA Pickleball on Monday. The manufacturers and had a meeting, and they seem more concerned with spin. And someone had said something to the like of, my opinion is that spin is more of an issue to the game than power. And I have not heard any issues with spin besides my paddles aren't spinny enough because I try to stay within the limits.
Who is this crazy person?
I don't. The audio was so bad. I don't recall exactly who it was.
No, you don't have to call him out.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
No, and I'm not going to. But 18 months ago when certain paddles were banned for spin, like maybe it was an issue. But majority of paddles nowadays, if you were to go to Dick's Sporting Goods, pull 10 paddles off the shelf, 80% of them are probably going to fail the USAP spin. The grittiness,
the grit test,
or the surface roughness test. So I think that they should raise the spin levels because it's not causing an issue, at least to where the paddles are currently. I don't think you need to go any higher than that, but I think that would make for a more enjoyable game is tone the power back, right? Keep it at the Gen 2 levels and keep the spin where it's at. And I think that's a really sweet spot to be and a good spot for majority of people. And again, then the pros can do whatever they want, and they already are doing what they want, right?
Yeah.
They have, what is the UPP or UPA? There's too many acronyms nowadays, and they have their own set of rules, which are more relaxed than USAP. So yeah, that's kind of my take on spin and the power and things like that.
So you brought up something interesting when you're having this paddle manufacturer meeting with USAPA, and does anyone bring up that we need a real uniform system as into how to check the paddles to make sure that it's legal for everyone, it's safe for everyone, but also I gotta imagine as a paddle manufacturer you're trying to hit a moving target all the time as to what you think they're going to be okay with.
Yeah, and it's tricky. They're supposed to be compliance testing. They don't. They said they're going to more moving forward. I'm not sure. That remains to be seen. But yeah, it is a moving target. And the issue is, like you spoke about me maybe making a Gen 3 paddle. I'm a one-person company. I have a limited amount of resources that I can put into R&D, right? So should I focus on making that paddle if it's going to be banned later on? I don't know. Yeah. Right. And then they called out, well, it's not fair to the big manufacturers because they have longer lead times. And we're like, I understand that, but we also have limited resources to make and develop these paddles. So it goes both ways. I understand, but they're not moving fast. I don't know what's going to happen. There's no timeline put on anything. So I wouldn't expect any changes anytime soon, on the power front.
It's just really sad to me because it seems like you could make a statement and go, okay, here are the current, like use an exit speed velocity test, right? I don't know how much that would cost them to get some sort of machine to do it. And then a new grit level, I think it's 41. I don't know what that number means. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so the current levels for RT and RZ are 40 and 30 and just measures the distance between the peak and the valley.
Okay. Yeah.
They do have a coefficient of restitution test in the works and they showed it to us. But they said there's no timeline and they don't know. And we're all pushing for, and a lot of people brought up in the call that we need to push for an RPM test, right? We should just cap RPMs and put a box around it.
Yeah.
We don't care how you get there. Just put a cap on it. And I think that allows a lot of innovation because innovation is kind of stifled right now and people are just looking for ways around the rules. And unfortunately, there's no stopping like paddles now, right? That test out of the box well, but then you use them, they break
get hotter.
in and they get hotter. There's nothing to stop that. So there's just a whole plethora of issues right now, and I wish more people would speak up about it.
Yeah.
But I get why you wouldn't. You're a big manufacturer, right? What you're doing is working right now, and there's no testing, there's no compliance, and you can just sell what you want. And if you're small, you're not going to say anything because if they come after you, that could really hurt you. So
no, I get that.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot to sit in right now.
Yeah. Well, and innovation is key, and I think will be really fun moving forward. And it was one of my questions that I'll get to in a little bit. But so like Proton drops this completely unique, different paddle that's supposed to have the best spin, and according to the paddle reviewers, it holds the ball 4 times longer than any other paddle because of what it's doing. Yet it's legal. And it's like how and why, and that's where me as a consumer, I love paddles. I mean, I have them all over the place. I try them, I review them, and it makes me crazy to go, okay, I bought that EULA and now I can't play in tournaments with it unless I'm playing a PPA. That's annoying.
Yeah, no, and I'm trying to avoid that. So I try to keep everything, and that would be frustrating as a consumer. And being at PPA this weekend, people were all confused. Can I use it? Can I not? The PPA said you can use it, which was the right move, right?
Yeah.
You've been practicing for a tournament for months, probably for most people, and to say they can't use the paddle is unfair. But yeah, as a consumer, that's really frustrating. And there are a lot of paddles out there that are, test way over the limits, like you said, and that's another manufacturer on another podcast and then spoken about that. So I'm not gonna. Yeah. I don't know anything, but yeah, it's frustrating as a consumer too. And I wish someone would step up. And I get regulation takes time, but you do have to start jogging at some point and making some changes versus just crawling.
Yeah, for sure. And as I was saying, I wish they would just come out with a solid statement and say, these are the legal rules for the next 12 months. We're going to revisit it at that point. But everything that release has to adhere to these rules. Yeah. Right?
And that's been the other issue, is the lack of communication. Is like, we're learning all this from other podcasts, right? So we all wish too, because it's hard for us to develop things when we don't know what's going to change. Yeah. So it's frustrating on the consumer and the manufacturers.
Yeah, I can only imagine, because you're ordering tons of paddles and you don't want, $100,000 worth of paddles in your garage, and you're like, yay.
Yeah. And it's like, what do I do with these?
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about the process of putting paddles together. I know that you layer either Kevlar or carbon fiber, and is there a certain number of layers that most manufacturers adhere to? Can you do more or less? And then what would be the value? Just kind of geek out on paddles a little bit.
Yeah, so those are good questions. So as far as like paddle manufacturing, you have your Gen 1 sandwich paddles, which are cold press and cut with a CNC machine. They put the edge guard on. That's kind of old tech and a great beginner's paddle. And then now we have these Gen 2 and Gen 3, which are thermoformed, right? So they cut the face sheets out of carbon fiber, Kevlar, whatever materials you have, put that on the core, and then they have a carbon seam that runs along the edge. They inject foam, put it under heat and pressure, so the resin in there cures, and then it all kind of forms one paddle. And as far as like the face sheets go, you can choose any type of layup that you want, right? So like on the Hirachi X, the Control Plus, soon to be all court, has 3 layers, right? Of one of carbon fiber, one of fiberglass, one of carbon fiber.
Okay.
So that gives a little more pop with the fiberglass in there, whereas our Kevlar paddle has 3 layers of carbon fiber and one of Kevlar, which gives a little bit softer feel. So the number of layers you have and the layup and the direction of it all changes the characteristics of how a paddle feels. So there's no like one set way. It just depends on what you're looking for and trying to accomplish, how you want the paddle to feel.
Okay. Got you. But I have to imagine if you're adding we're coming out with an 8-ply layer, that paddle is going to be super heavy, right?
Yeah. As you add more material, and that would be an interesting paddle. I've never tried anything over 4, so I have no idea.
That's fair. Yeah. So, but all the Gen 1s are a single sheet of carbon fiber and then put into it, or is it 3 sheets or 2 sheets?
Yeah, they can have multiple sheets. It's just cold press, so it's pressed to the polypropylene and then just cut out. Okay. Right. And they put an edge guard on it. And that's why they tend to be a little bit less expensive, because there's not as much manufacturing. Like, you can go way into the manufacturing process of thermoform paddles and the way they lay up the sheets, put them in the mold, and then they have all these stickers they put on and have to adjust things. It's really tricky. It's very interesting, but you won't see many videos of them because the manufacturers won't share. It's very rare to see them of their process, because they don't want to share that with anyone else.
Yeah, they don't want anybody else to know the process. Yeah. They keep the market. Yeah. Very smart. So as I was talking about, Proton came out with really unique new face, something that to me feels like rubber. What are some of the other different materials that you've thought about that other manufacturers are? Have we topped out at Kevlar and carbon fiber, or is you think a plethora of different things we can use? And I'm asking as a complete numbskull. I have no clue what the answer will this be.
Yeah, so we're all in search of that everlasting paddle surface. I've started to work on like a Proton-esque surface, but the problem is getting it within that coefficient of friction test is really tricky. So the rules are just really limiting right now. Like, you can put a lot of different things into a paddle, but what works best right now is carbon fiber and Kevlar and fiberglass. So I don't know, with the current rules, it's really stifling innovation. Yeah. Right. There's some other, composite materials I'd like to try. I'm kind of keeping that close to myself.
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't have to tell me.
People can Google it and find other things that they're out there. But I think that's kind of where we're at now. And again, I'm not a trained engineer. I call myself a pretend-gineer.
Okay. I like that.
Because I'm all self-taught, like computer science. I'm an AI engineer by day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what I know is just from what I've been teaching myself, speaking to the manufacturer, saying, hey, can we do this? How does this work? Getting feedback and going back and forth with them.
Okay.
So, yeah, but we'll see. It gets tricky because, as people start to put foam in the cores and that has its issues, that's why I've been trying to stay away from it. But, everyone wants a power paddle and they got to keep up. So
yeah,
it's tricky. Yeah. With the current rules to innovate.
Well, it's funny to hear you say everyone wants a power paddle. Cause I would agree. I feel like I see so many of them out there now, but I would predict, my bold prediction is 6 months from now, no one is going to want a power paddle. And it's because one of the things that I look for in a paddle is consistency. So I'm a 4.5, I'm going to say almost 5.0. And I don't hit the sweet spot all the time. I mean, when I'm playing against better players, it could be 5 out of 10, right? So 50%. And when I hit the sweet spot on a Gen 3 or one of those new paddles, the ball rockets off the face. And then when I don't hit the sweet spot, and that's what I struggle with the Eula so much, is it feels more like a normal shot. And so how do I prepare not knowing where I'm going to hit it on the face? So I need a paddle that is the ball's going to come off kind of no matter where it hits. And I think that's what I really liked about your paddles is it felt that way. And that's what I like about the Thrive and some of these others is that if I can get a consistent feel over time, then that's the paddle I want to play with because I get used to it. I can swing hard, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm hoping that that's what the masses will start asking for and manufacturers will move away from it.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And that's kind of why I'm going a different direction of others right now is focusing on control paddles. Like I have a wide body in the works that hopefully should be out in another 5 or 6 weeks.
Oh, cool.
And that's honestly what a majority of players should play with, especially like 4.0 and under, is like a Gen 1.5 or a soft Gen 2 paddle that you can reset, you can drop the ball and learn to play the game and have a ton of control. And it has a big forgiving sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. I think we'll see a lot of people switch because I played in PPA ATL this past weekend. We played 2 players, one with a Alpha Yola and one with the Gen 3. And all you had to do was speed up with them at the net and it would pop up and then you could finish the point.
Yeah.
Now you couldn't leave anything high because of course they could put it away. But yeah, I think as people start to realize like, hey, these are really tough to play with at the lower levels. And when I say lower levels, I mean not pro.
Yeah.
As you said, like you could be a 5.0 player and be very, very good, but they're still really tricky to play with.
Oh, hugely. And I think that's why Ben and Colin aren't even playing with them in men's doubles. Is like
that's the rumor. I don't want to comment on that.
No,
but
I mean
his paddle was sitting on a table while I was walking out, and I was like, maybe we should take one, cut it open, and see. I would never do that, but it was kind of funny.
Oh, I would have loved it if you did. No, I mean you can hear it and have a pretty good idea of what he's playing with. I mean the Gen 3s make such a unique sound.
Yeah, and in person you could definitely tell. So,
Well, the other thing that I wanted to bring up to you and just hear your thoughts on is recently one of the guys cut open the gearbox paddle, and it's a complete foam core, but he found rubber bands in there as well, and like the sweet spot. And I didn't think that it was legal to have like a rubber band type trampolini, but I guess there aren't really any rules, so you just make it and hope. It's kind of a weird world out there right now.
Yeah, and the way paddle testing is done is that you basically personally attest to, hey, my paddle meets the rules, and they don't cut them open or look inside of them. Wow. So you could give them a foam core and say it's polypropylene, and if it passes, you're good. So, and the rules are kind of written in a gray area of like, is this a trampoline? Is it not? You could argue, right?
Yeah.
That, and maybe the band in there, you could say it's just structural.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sure there's some engineers who could definitely describe that and say like, oh no, it's structural to hold the foam in this in place when we manufacture it, like see if you do it. And it probably doesn't add a trampoline effect, but when your whole paddle's foam, like, yes, that's going to have some type of like trampoline effect, but I don't know. It's just, it's tricky right now.
So it is just funny. While you're saying that, it just makes me laugh and smile because it reminds me of like having a really good attorney that can twist words around and make things right and wrong depending on how you phrase it. And it's that's kind of the world we're living in.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's very gray. Mm-hmm. And again, that kind of goes back to what we spoke about earlier. I wish there was like just some set rules or put things in a box and let us do what we want as long as we stay within those boxes.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed, but as you said, they're moving at a snail's pace at this point.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about just your pickleball journey. You said you found it in Hilton Head. You were, I assume, probably just playing with some family members who had played down there?
Yeah, and we were playing in like a round robin, social round robin, and I went up to competitive courts against some old ladies who beat me pretty good. I'm like, all right, I got to get better so when I come back, I can win, because they were talking a lot of trash.
Oh, I love it.
Which is a lot of fun. So, and then got into it, joined a league with my wife. And
okay, so she plays as well?
Yeah, she plays socially for fun, and then we played, and then I was like, all right, I think I want to do this more competitively, because come from, tennis background, competitive sports as a kid, and come from a very competitive family. So, and I had to beat all my brothers. But yeah, and then started playing 3-4 times a week, and just started, really working at it, started drilling all the time. And I spent maybe 80% of my time drilling, and slowly working up towards that, 4 or 5 level, and being able, my goal by the end of the year is to medal in a 4 or 5 event. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. It was my goal for 18 months to get a gold medal in a 4 or 5. And I just did it this past weekend. So wait a second.
Well, I said, that's awesome. Yeah.
I love it when I get to use the buttons.
Yeah.
And it felt so nice to, after getting second, third, fourth for, a year and a half, finally break through, stay mentally focused for the whole day and get the win. And we fought off some match points too. It was one of those days where I felt like we were down and out a couple of times, and we fought back over and over again. And so, like, no matter what, at the end of the day, we felt amazing because of some of the earlier matches, but to win it was just awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's no feeling like getting your first medal. So I remember my first tournaments, it was like 2 and done. And then, you work your way into it. So,
Yep. Yeah. So are you playing like 4 or 5, 10 different tournaments a year? Are you going to be a tournament player, or we're going to see you out and about?
Yeah, you'll start to see me more as I have more time and to put into this. So I'm going to start to try to travel to more PPA events and meet some of my ambassadors and people use my paddles, because that's really important to me, and to get feedback and meet people, get out in the community. And everyone's been so awesome that's important to me. But yeah, you'll see me at some local tournaments, and when I have time, I have so many weddings and other things to go to too. So
nice. Yes, you're still a younger man. You get to do that. All my friends are just getting divorced at this point. You'll get there. Oh man. So very cool. I decided this year that I'm going to mostly travel and play tournaments out, so I'm getting to get new looks, new faces, meet some people, etc. And so, I think I'll be traveling around. Hopefully I'll connect with you and get you in a PPA, or let's team up at some point. That would be fun too.
That'd be fun. I have a little more practice to do first, but
So we're like the 30-minute point. As we wrap up, what is next for your company? And I forgot to ask you, Huarache, what does it mean? Why did you choose it, et cetera, et cetera? We know the 11six24.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I had a pair of Nike Air Huaraches that I wore way back in like middle school that I loved, and it reminded me of the paddle. It was like, I don't know. I remember putting the shoe on, and it made me feel fast and just kind of like performant, and the paddle reminded me of it. So that's why I went with. And then my next paddle is likely to be called the Monarch, after the Nike Air Monarchs.
Okay.
Because it's a wide body paddle. It's very stable, very comfortable, huge sweet spot, and it reminded me of those shoes as well.
Okay.
I'm very excited about that one. That's going to be a great paddle. So yeah, just kind of naming them a little bit after Nike shoes, but luckily we play in different industries, so I won't have any issues there. Plus the spelling of Huarache is different.
Gotcha. And so the new wide body paddle that you're bringing out, are you going to do 6-inch handles on all of them, or are you going to have some varying handle lengths, or?
Yeah, so this one will have like a 5.75-inch handle with up to 6 of usable space. The feedback I've gotten is everyone loves the long handle. There are those who don't, but it's not for everyone. But most people have liked, and they're moving to a 2-handed backhand. Rarely do you see anyone use a 1-handed backhand anymore. Yeah. So having that extra space to be able to have that ability is good. And if you only use one hand, they're not super long, that you can't do that. Okay. Yeah. And you beat me to it. And I was going to say, I really like the long handles on all the paddles. It just, I recently got a 5-inch paddle, and I just, the grip kind of killed it for me. And that I go to put my second hand on, and it overlaps, but it's way up on the paddle, and it just doesn't feel good. And so I think you're right in that 5.5 plus is going to, I hope, become more of the norm for most paddles out there. Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of players start to move to those.
Yeah.
With the control paddles too.
So what else is on the agenda for your company?
So working on the wide body, have some cool alphas coming out. So I'm going to do some alpha paddles that will be limited runs for testing, kind of like Selkirk Labs, where I get feedback from players and just testing some kind of, I don't want to say crazy things, but very different things that haven't really been tested before. And I don't know how the market's going to react. So doing that, getting player feedback, start traveling to more PPA events, meeting all my ambassadors, meeting players, and just continue to grow the company. And that's the goal, and also last goal or biggest goal of the year is to make Chris's paddle awards. I said last year my paddle was in the background, and it was of the awards video, and this year I'm going to be in the awards. So that's the other goal.
Dude, you definitely should, based on the play of what I've seen of what you're dropping. But the funniest thing, did you see his most recent video on the Willinator?
Yeah,
It is just so funny how Will tears. Maybe you just talk really bad about Chris, and then he'll come to you. Yeah. I guess that's what Will did. And 6-0 says, let's go, we'll make you a paddle.
Yeah, no, I would never talk bad about the reviewers. I'll just say the pickleball community has been awesome. Like, where else can you go to a random city, meet people, go out to eat with them, play pickleball? They help you grow your business. They don't even know you, and they're excited. And it's just been so awesome. And that's the one thing I love about it is like just the community and the people. Mm-hmm. So it's been amazing. No,
I would definitely agree. And my old friends are mad at my new pickleball friends because I never see my old friends anymore. Yeah. It's just like, darn it. Well, congrats to you on all your successes, man. And I look forward to reviewing the paddles, and look forward to seeing you on the court again. And if you need anything, I'm here for you, my man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for it.
How can everyone find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, 11six24 Pickleball.
Okay.
You can always email me if you need to, David at 11six24.com. That's out there. People know it. But yeah, Instagram or email is probably the best.
Okay. And if we wanted to order a paddle, they go to 11six24.com.
Yep. You just go to the website and they're all listed there for you to buy.
Okay. And I'll put the connections for Instagram and everything right down here so everyone can see it. I'll also put it in the comments for you. So, David, really appreciate your time, man. Great luck in the future. I'm sure Chris will be talking about you at the end of the year.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I'll see you on the courts. Guys, if you've been enjoying this and you would like to help out a small channel out there, please just hit the little subscribe button, hit the like, and tell me how you like the pod. Until next time, peace.